everybody knows that Niko Bellic, the protagonist of GTA 4, is of European descent, and to be more precise, he comes from the Balkan region. However, most people are convinced that Niko is a Serb. Hell, I used to think so as well for a very long time, and I even referred to Niko in this way multiple times in my videos, which as it turns out was most likely wrong. The information that Niko is Serbian, which we can also read on GTA Wiki, is not exactly true. Why do the players think that Niko is Serbian? First, a bit about why the players think that Niko is Serbian, and why it's not necessarily correct. Let's begin with the fact that actually all the pieces and facts seem to simply fit together very well. Therefore, it was convenient to assume so. Cause look at it. Serbia is located in the Balkans, where Niko comes from. His dart is also decorated in the colors that pretty much resemble the ones we can find in the Serbian flag. As I mentioned a while ago, even the GTA Wiki claims that Niko was born to a Serbian family. And the main thing is that, after all, Niko and Roman speak Serbian.
Mislio sam da će umreti I otići u raj, čoveče.
Ne mogu da kažem, da imam.
Moreover, Roman even names his mother tongue Serbian.
Could speak English. Remember, we learned off the English girls with the big...
A little, not so good.
He'll be fine. Better than my Serbian.
This theory does have a few question marks though, like the fact that Niko never directly says in the game that he comes from Serbia. Niko says that he's from the Balkan region and is often referred to as Eastern European.
Are you from East Europe? Romania? Bulgaria? Balkan?
Hey, you're a smart guy.
All those things strongly suggest that Niko comes from Serbia, but in reality, if you take a better look, these things are not hard to question. For example, let's take the argument that Niko and Roman must be Serbian because they speak Serbian in the game. And yeah, cool, that would be a very good argument, if not for the fact that the Serbian language is also spoken in at least 4 countries. Apart from Serbia, Serbian is used in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Kosovo, and to some degree also in Croatia. To add to that, the predominant languages of those countries, for instance Croatian in Croatia or Bosnian in Bosnia, these languages are very similar to Serbian, sometimes even referred to as Serbo-Croatian or Serbo-Bosnian. People speaking in 2 different languages from this set should understand each other pretty well. Furthermore, some of those languages, like Montenegrin, popularized relatively late, back when all those countries were united under the name of Yugoslavia, which is also when Niko was born. The differences between those languages were even smaller and the popularity of Serbian was much higher. Hence, Niko could technically speak Serbian while being Bosnian or Croatian, or from another country from that region. So as we can see, the fact that Niko speaks Serbian is not an argument at all. And even if you're still not convinced, let's see what Rockstar has to say on the subject. Sam Hauser, one of the co-founders of the company, in April 2008, shared a few facts about Niko Bellic. Not only does he refer to him as Eastern European, he says a statement that eliminates any doubt in this subject. GTA 3 had a main character with no name. GTA 4's main character is a man with no country. Liberty City's residents labeled Niko with slanderous titles like that Polak or that Slavic drug dealer. He just smirks or offers a non-committal grunt. He's from that gray part of broken down Eastern Europe, a war-torn area. As we can see, the developers deliberately made Niko a character of an unspecified nationality. All we know is that he's from Eastern Europe, from the Balkan region, from a place which was affected by the armed conflicts towards the end of the 20th century, and that he comes from a nation that speaks Serbian as one of their languages. And there are a few nations that fit that description, and they were listed earlier. Taking into consideration all that was said so far, we cannot be certain as to what Niko's nationality actually is. What is the most likely option? In that case, what is Niko's true nationality? And can we find some more info that would solve this mystery? The answer is yes, or at least somewhat. See, I looked into the matter and managed to connect a few dots. For example, in the Russian Revolution mission, we find out that Niko, after the war, used to work for a Russian gangster, Ray Bulgarin, who at the time, as we now know, thanks to Niko's dialogue in the Bleed Out mission, conducted his operations by the Adriatic Sea.
A man in Europe, another Russian, Bulgarin. They live on the Adriatic. Believed I owed him money when I did not.
One day, Niko was to be part of the crew on the ship on which many people were scheduled to be smuggled to Italy, undoubtedly from the Balkans, because Dmitry claims that this transport took place on the waters of the Mediterranean Sea. The ship has been attacked and sunk by unknown assailants just a mile off the Italian coast. Niko had to swim for his life. However, what exactly happened is not important in this case. What is important is the conclusions that we can draw from this story. Judging by the areas inhabited by the Balkan nations at the time in which Niko was working for Bulgarian, which do not differ much from the borders of the countries of these nations that we see on contemporary maps, we can eliminate a few options. Niko was smuggling people from the Balkan coast for Bulgarian, who lived by the Adriatic. The Adriatic is a part of the Mediterranean Sea, so everything aligns with Dimitri's words. Niko was heading for Italy, so it looked more or less as you can see on the screen right now. We got 4 countries that could potentially be a host for Bulgarian's operation because they're connected to the Adriatic Sea. Hence, they could be the port from which Bulgarian's transports were taking off. Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro. We can probably rule out Slovenia as its coastline is relatively small, as well as the fact that there's little chance that Niko, if he grew up in Slovenia, would speak Serbian. The problem with Bosnia is that its access to the sea is very limited compared to Croatia, which both were already independent countries by the time Niko was working for Ray. And Bosnia's coastline length is only 20 kilometers, so we can also pretty much put this option aside. We're left with Montenegro and Croatia, where the Serbian language is present and was especially so in the past. Plus, both countries have a reasonable piece of coastline connecting them with the Adriatic Sea. Obviously, Croatia's coastline is a lot longer, so it should be the main candidate here. And it would be, if not for one detail. We all remember the first enemies of the cousins Bellic in Liberty City. They were Albanian gangsters, and Albania borders Montenegro. The two countries have a pretty positive relationship these days. However, it hasn't always been this way, especially if we look at the Balkan Wars. This cannot be said about the Serbians, whose relations with the Albanians are far from the greatest. There were a lot of conflicts between these nations, the most recent one concerning Kosovo, a small young country that's inhabited by mostly Albanians. But despite that fact, for a long time, it was part of Serbia. The reason I'm saying this is not because I changed my mind and now I went back to thinking that Niko is Serbian, but because Serbia and Montenegro were actually one country until 2006, when Montenegro gained full independence. What I'm trying to say is that the fact that Rockstar made our first enemies Albanian may suggest Montenegro over Croatia in this case. And now the fun begins. If we type Belic or Belic in Montenegrin or Serbian in Google Maps search function, we may come across a certain location in Montenegro. There's a mountain peak very close to the Albanian border in the Procesor National Park, which by the way translates to Cursed Park. The peak is called Belic. What's even more interesting is that if we zoom in on that region, we can notice another location named Roman, and Roman is obviously Niko's cousin. Isn't that a bit too much to call it a coincidence? Unfortunately, Google Maps does not have any additional information about those locations, so I searched the internet and managed to find out that Belic is indeed a mountain peak with an elevation of around 1,800 meters above sea level. Right next to it, we got another mountain peak called Roman. We got a hamlet named the Ruins of Katun Roman and a rock, also named Roman. The question is, were these two peaks the inspiration for the name and the surname of Niko's cousin? Who knows? But considering all those other hints, it kind of makes sense. So what do you think? Does that solve the mystery of Niko's nationality? Let me know down in the comments. The downsides of my theory. On the other hand, the Yugoslav War in which Niko fought actually did not affect Montenegro that much. The most serious case was probably the bombing conducted by NATO in 1999, but it wasn't as bad as in Serbia or Bosnia, so this kind of doesn't fit the atrocities that Niko tells us about in the game. On yet another hand, the fact that it wasn't that bad doesn't mean that it was peaceful and that there were no atrocities at all. What I'm trying to say is that this point may question the theory that Niko is Montenegrin. Summary of my theory. So following my theory, Niko would have been technically born as a citizen of Yugoslavia. Then in 2003, he would become a citizen of Serbia and Montenegro. And only in 2006 would he become a proper Montenegrin, leaving Europe for America 2 years later in order to see his cousin. But we still cannot be certain that Niko is from Serbia or from Montenegro or Croatia or any other Balkan country. There is simply no confirmation. All we got is a couple of general facts, some symbols, references, but nothing specific. And now my request to you, please let me know how you see it. I hope that you'll notice something that I missed. I'll be especially looking forward to reading your comments under this video. Meanwhile, thank you for watching till the end. Make sure to like the video if you found it interesting. I'm saying goodbye, take care, and see you soon.